Our company motto is we make products that make a difference. Where'd that come from, or you want to expound on it just a little bit? It's true. Like I said, we listen to the fleets, we listen to the guy putting on the product, and we want to make that quality product. Yeah,
I'm not sure if it was a direct quote from a fellow named Tom Hines that developed our Phillips logo. By the time he was, I went to high school together. He was doing some marketing, working at one of the large marketing companies, and had him do the logo. And out of a conversation, we said we need a tagline. And knowing that we, maybe through conversation, that we wanted to make products that made a difference, that just became our tagline. That we're not going to copy somebody. We want to make something better and different. And like I said before, we don't want to make it cheaper, we make it better. And both Rob and Dave are really into that same philosophy. So
absolutely. Vince Lombardi said, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And you have an industry friend that says you're the luckiest guy he's ever met. You want to talk about success and luck, hard work?
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know it was Lombardi who did that, but you get salesmen work their tail off and lose business, or not lose it, but not get it. But if you do that enough times, things start happening in your direction, and then someone will tell somebody else and somebody else and somebody else, and you'll get that business from somebody you hadn't even planned on. That's why I say the harder you work, the luckier you get. I used to make calls at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'd make it at 6:30 if I had to. A good friend, Union Pacific Railroad, worked late. And so I'd make sure I'd see him late at night. When everything's gone, everyone's gone home, I'd see him. Rene Gonzalez was a friend of mine. And I'd go see him at 5:30 at night. I've always felt that if you want to talk to the boss, don't call him during the daytime. Call him at 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night. Doesn't matter who it is. If it's going to be Freightliner, it's going to be PACCAR, it's going to be whoever it is. The boss is always the one that's working late.
Yeah, Rob had actually brought that up earlier. You've had some tough times. You've had some times where maybe you stepped out a little too far and all of a sudden, said, hey, what have I done, and is this going to work? Yeah. You want to talk about those a little bit?
Well, yeah, every day starts out with an obstacle, and if you imagine that, then you can get through it, I think. Example was, when I started, I was really embarrassed to go out and make sales calls because I would stammer and stutter. But along the line, I met a friend of mine that I went to high school with, and ran track with, in fact, a year or two behind me, that was working for a company called Minibus and made tram cars that go through Universal Studios and Catalina and Disneyland and a lot of the parks around the country. He became a customer of mine, but he said, and when I was single at 23, 24 years old, he said, my boss got me into Dale Carnegie course, and I'm really loving it. You want to think about that. The class was going to be held at the Downey Women's College, Downey Women's Club in Downey, which was not very far away from the office. It was held at 7:03 on every Wednesday night. And I said, why 7:03? He says, because you don't forget it. Good point. So I went through the Carnegie course, and the first night scared me to death to have to say my name in front of this group of 40 people or so. Those things just opened the doors for me, and then a year or two later, all of a sudden I realized one day I quit stuttering. But on the other side, the not so good sides that was tough. We had 1975. We were just making copper wire or vine wire and making cables with it. We had a gas rationing, which shut down a lot of the trucking fleets business-wise. Gas and diesel, you couldn't get. People lined up for miles to get gas on alternate days. That was a devastating hit to our business. 1980 was a recession, mini recession that put us back. But in 1980 was the biggest one. That's when the deregulation hit. And we got through that by selling the business. You make a decision based upon what you know, and hopefully you cross your fingers that it's the right one. 2000, there was a recession, and we went through that one. And you remember the one in 2008 and 9. We had bankers crawling all over us, when are we going to get paid, that type of thing. But those are tough, tough times, It doesn't matter how big you are. I don't care if you're Goldman Sachs. I don't care if you're Consolidated Freightways. I don't care if you're Roadway or you're going to be somebody else. You got to watch what you're doing all the time. You got to, cash is king. You've got to have that. You've got to look over your shoulder, and you can't take things for
granted.
Granted, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. And one of the things that we should never ever forget is that a little guy with a good idea can knock down the biggest guy, the too big to fail type people, period, because it will happen. And you see that every single day of the year, somebody comes up with a better idea, and look at the iPhone, look at all these products that just wiped out total industries.
You've seen this business change over the last 40 years. You've seen Phillips change. What do you see coming in the industry, and where do you see Phillips going?
You mentioned change, and some things have changed, there's no question about it. You got better products, you got better quality. In a lot of cases, it's still the same. Price is talked about over and over again, and it seems like it's a race who can be the lowest price. That I see is still the same. The price guy is going to be the price guy. Nothing you can do about that. But the bottom line is you want to have your customers be successful and be efficient in what they do, and they can make money, and they can grow and grow with you.
Bob, what would you share with a new salesperson coming into this industry? Just general sales advice that you've learned over a long, successful career.
People I've seen before, but you ask them what time it is, and they'll tell you how the watch is built. We don't need to know that. Tell them the things that are important to the person that makes their day easier and their life easier. Don't try and become the expert, because you're not going to be the expert. It doesn't matter how much you know, there's someone who knows a whole lot more out there than you do.
When you came back to Phillips in 1963, did you ever think you'd have manufacturing in Mexico, the United States, China, distribution in Europe? Did you ever think you'd even go to China?
Well, I was lucky just to get from Arcadia to Los Angeles and back again. And
every day?
Every day, yeah. So every day became important, and I guess it goes back to when I was in high school and in college, pole vaulted, you reach a new height, you raise the bar. And you don't worry about what you had done yesterday, because that's yesterday. And you just automatically find a goal. And so I think by changing the goals, and you don't spend time looking at what happened yesterday. What happened yesterday is yesterday. What can I do today?
It's always been inspirational to hear you, Bob, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well,
thank you, sir.
Welcome, John. Yeah.